Alright guys, let's start by attacking tags where their game is usually the strongest pre-flop. Tags love to play premium hands, right? They're raising those aces, kings, queens, and ace-king like it's going out of style. So, how do we exploit that? Recognize their pre-flop tendencies. When you see a tag consistently raising from early or middle position, you can narrow their range down to those big pairs and high ace combos. When you're in position against a tag's raise, especially with hands like ace-king, queens, jacks, or even suited connectors, don't be afraid to 3-bet them. A well-timed 3-bet can force them to fold hands like ace-queen or king-queen, build a bigger pot when you have a strong hand, and keep them guessing. Tags love to be in control, so taking the initiative with a 3-bet can really throw them off their game. Another powerful weapon is set mining, calling a raise with a small or medium pocket pair, hoping to hit a set on the flop. Against tags, this can be highly profitable, especially when you're getting good odds to call. Think about it, they're raising with those big hands, and if you flop a set, you're in a prime position to stack them. One of the biggest mistakes you can make is calling their raises with weak hands out of position. Tags are playing a tight range, so if you're calling with hands like ace-10 offsuit or king-jack offsuit, you're going to be in trouble more often than not. These hands play much better in position, where you can control the size of the pot and make more informed decisions post-flop. So, unless you're getting amazing odds or have a specific read on the tag's tendencies, it's usually best to fold these weaker hands and wait for a better spot. Suited connectors can be tricky hands against tags. They have the potential to make strong hands like straights and flushes, which can be very profitable against a tag's tight range. If you're in position, especially in late position, and the tag has been raising a lot, you can definitely consider playing suited connectors aggressively. Alright, so we've made it past the pre-flop streets, and now we're in the thick of the action on the flop. This is where things can get really interesting against tags, as their post-flop play tends to be more predictable. One of the most common scenarios you'll encounter against tags on the flop is facing a continuation bet, or C-bet. Since tags play a tight range pre-flop, they're more likely to C-bet a wider range of flops, even if they don't always connect. If you notice a tag is C-betting a high percentage of flops, you can start to exploit this by check-raising them more often. Check-raising serves a dual purpose. It allows you to win the pot right there if they're bluffing with a weak hand, and it forces them to make a tough decision. Not all tags are C-betting maniacs. Some are more selective with their C-bets, especially on drier boards. In these cases, you can exploit their tightness by floating the flop with a wider range of hands. Floating the flop means calling with the intention of bluffing them out on later streets if they check. This works particularly well against tags who are prone to giving up on weak hands. However, before you start check-raising and floating every flop, remember that board texture plays a crucial role in your decision-making. Against tags, it's important to be mindful of how the flop connects with their perceived range. If the flop comes down with 2 high cards in a draw, like ace-king-10, there's a good chance the tag connected with this flop. On the other hand, if the flop comes down with something like 7-4 deuce rainbow, it's much less likely that the tag connected with this board. Alright guys, we've navigated the flop, and now we're on the turn. This is where the plot thickens, and the decisions become even more crucial. Against tags, the turn is often a street where you can start to apply maximum pressure and exploit their tendencies to overfold or pay you off with weaker hands. One of the most common scenarios you'll encounter against tags on the turn is when they check to you. A check from a tag on the turn often indicates weakness. They might have missed their draw, whiffed the flop completely, or simply be content to check call with a weak-made hand. This is where you need to seize the opportunity and start firing bets. Don't be afraid to bet big, especially if the turn card strengthens your perceived range or weakens theirs. For example, if the turn brings a scare card that completes a possible straight or flush draw, a tag might be more inclined to fold a weak hand like top pair or a weak 2-pair. Not all tags will fold to a single bet on the turn, especially if they have a strong hand or a good read on your play. In these cases, you need to be prepared to fire a second barrel on the river if you think you're still ahead. Another key aspect of exploiting tags on the turn is recognizing when to raise. If you pick up equity on the turn, like completing a straight or flush draw, don't be afraid to raise their bet. This allows you to build the pot when you're strong and puts them in a tough spot. However, avoid raising with weak hands or draws that are unlikely to improve on the river. Tags are generally good at putting their opponents on ranges, so if they sense you're raising with air, they're more likely to call you down with a marginal hand. Exploiting tags on the turn is all about recognizing their tendencies, adjusting your strategy accordingly, and picking your spots wisely. Alright folks, we've reached the river, the final battleground where fortunes are won and lost. Against tags, the river can be a particularly intriguing street, as their play often becomes more predictable. One of the most common scenarios you'll encounter against tags on the river is when they check to you. A check from a tag on the river often indicates weakness, especially if they've been the aggressor throughout the hand. This is where you need to seize the opportunity and fire a bet. Don't be afraid to bet big, especially if the river card strengthens your perceived range or weakens theirs. Not all tags will fold to a single bet on the river, especially if they have a strong hand or a good read on your play. In these cases, you need to be prepared to fire a second barrel if you think you're still ahead. Another key aspect of exploiting tags on the river is recognizing when to call their bets. If a tag bets into you on the river, it usually means one of two things. They either have a strong hand or they're bluffing. The key is to determine which one it is. Remember, tags are generally risk-averse, so they're less likely to bluff with air on the river unless they're very confident in their read. Exploiting tags on the river is all about understanding their tendencies, picking your spots wisely, and making calculated decisions based on the information available. Tight aggressive players are tough, but they have weaknesses. Let's recap how to exploit tags at every stage. Pre-flop 3. Bet them in position, set mine, and attack their steals. Flop check raise their c-bets, float when they bluff too much. Turn attack when they check, raise if you pick up equity. River bluff when they check, hero call if they bluff too often. Now that you know how to beat tags, try these strategies at the table. Have you exploited a tag before? Share your experience in the comments. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel for more poker strategy content, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. Until next time, good luck at the tables and may the flop be with you.